The HR information system or human capital management system is the core of the HR people team's view of what's going on with their employees. It tells you, your employees' names, their addresses, how much they get paid, what their level is, who they report to. It probably has a copy of their employment contract. It probably has a copy of any sort of disciplinary letters against them. But one spot where the HCM or HRIS is really lacking is in the granular details of employees' employment contracts. And those details aren't always the same. You have employees that perhaps got acquired into the business, so maybe they had an employment agreement with some sort of prior company and that hasn't been switched around. The company form employment agreement may shift every year, multiple times throughout a year. And it isn't necessarily something where you get everybody to go and re-sign a new employment contract. Like maybe it's just new people who join get put on a new employment contract. You have different employment contracts across regions. You have different employment contracts across levels, right? Maybe someone joined at one level, rose to a different level, or they typically would have a different employment contract if they joined later, but they didn't, right? So you got lots of employees on different employment contracts. And there can be situations when it's really important to know those details in a hurry. And so situations can include if your company's doing a reduction in force, right? If you're doing a reduction in force, you need to know what the different termination clauses say and the sort of penalty amounts and payout amounts for those termination clauses, right? Because one person might have one arrangement, one person might have another arrangement. Maybe someone else will have even negotiated for something non-standard in there because they needed it to make them equal with the job that they were leaving. So that can be one situation. Number two, laws can change. One thing that's been happening in a lot of jurisdictions is that non-competes have been sort of falling out of favor legally. So certainly a few years ago, that was the case for kind of hourly paid employees, like a lot of fast food employees, for example, had non-competes in their contracts, and people started to, different states, attorney generals in the United States started to find that like not only those not cool, but that they were actually like legally offensive and you get fined for having those. So companies had to go through and find their non-competes. We are right now recording this in Ontario, and Ontario has just gotten rid of non-competes. So there'll be lots of companies out there just going through the contracts, trying to find what the non-competes say. Similarly, in the context of doing any kind of like M&A deal or something like that, you might have to go through contracts and figure out what the specific IP arrangements under your contracts are, like have people agreed to give their IP to the company in the right way? Have they waived their moral rights? All sorts of things like that. And what this all kind of boils down to is that HR people who are not necessarily super practiced at the legal review of contracts can end up having to make it through a huge volume of contracts in not that much time. A better way for this to be is just for those employment contract details to be in the HR information system itself. And that's what an embeddable contracts AI can do. Because in embeddable contracts, AI will go and pull details out of contracts, so like employment contracts or option agreements or intellectual property assignment and restrictive covenant agreements, and can go through those and figure out what they say about different data points and automatically pass those things into another system. And so if you embed one of these in your HRIS or HCM system, it can give you those employment contract details in the system that you're used to using every day, that an HR team is used to using every day, and that could be quite useful for them.